Hello, I am called to share a little bit about my awakening journey, which, it is in my book, but just to share in this space as well. So, as a child, I knew that I was supposed to be here and what I was meant to do, and that sort of was shut out by trauma and some experiences in the religious space. But I had mediumship abilities as a child, and I've had, and I had experiences, with connecting in that way. And I did have this super dark moment too, like where I just wanted to bail. I was like, okay, I signed up for this, I guess, but I know what's about to unfold, and no, thank you. Maybe I could rewrite the script and take off. And so there was a divine intervention, which I would later remember was an Andromedan guide that was present, but again, shut all of that out. Okay. And then so I went through just kind of living life, working in the music industry for a little bit, which was my passion. And, um, and then in 2009, I had I would call it an awakening dream, but again, I didn't know what an awakening was. So the next parts that I'm about to describe were a period of my life where I thought I was going crazy, but I was super intrigued and curious. So it was also exciting and magical as well. Okay. So I had this dream, and this dream was walking through this table of so many people with these chains, and it felt like they were trying to share bread, like break the bread with each other, but the chains were holding them back. And I was just observing this. And so later I would feel like that had a connection to stepping into this Christ consciousness. But, I didn't understand that back then. So I just kind of, kept walking through the chains, and I saw this door or this opening with this light, and I had to move toward the light. And so I went toward the light, and I remember seeing a tree that felt like it resembled the tree of life, and it was very beautiful. I just knew it was meaningful. And then I just felt this like wild, intense vibration, and and then after that vibration, I just woke up. And so a, a few months after that, that is when I had my actual awakening experience. It was on the solstice in Hilton Head. I had engaged in some behaviors the previous night that I was not proud of. And then I had a deep tissue massage scheduled the next day. And man, hell of a massage, because I don't know if he moved energy, awakened my kundalini, or what. Or perhaps it was just, the timed code set to awaken at that particular moment. But I stepped out of there. It was, again, summer solstice, 2009 at 11:11. And then whew, I was just hit with this wave of light and this cosmic bliss, euphoria. I felt like everyone and everything were connected, and I had a connection, deep connection and love of nature, unconditional love of myself and for everyone else. And I felt no shame or fear. It was simply anyone that I ever was mad at, I had forgiven instantly, and anything that I judged myself for, I had forgiven instantly. And so that wave, whew, that was amazing. Colors were very vibrant. And then I started seeing, signs and synchronicities and, 111s, and just like license plate with angels and love, and, all of the things that are typical with the awakening process. I reignited my passion with music. And I was manifesting like really big things, and that all felt amazing and wonderful. But the other part of it was there were these things that would drop in. You know, I'd channel these messages that I did not understand at the time until much later. But it was like, you know, words would just pop through, like the Essenes, the Dead Sea Scrolls, you know, stuff about religion and just like how these big religions would eventually unite over time, and you know, and so there was this mysterious element of it. There's also a paranoia, yeah, paranoia element about it too, because I was following, you know, these signs, synchronicities, and my intuition led me to this one place, and I went. It was a store, and I went inside of it, and I was going to go to a bookstore after. And in the store, I just had this weird feeling, and there were these two older guys that just had this weird kind of energy about them. They were dressed in black suits, and they had both had black hats on, and I felt like they were like watching me and following me, and it was just so bizarre. And so I just was like, okay, whatever. And then I went to the store, and they were there, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I remember just like freaking out, and I got out of the bookstore, you know, pretty fast. I remember calling the person I was dating at the time, and I'm like, I'm so freaked out right now. And so I, you know, that eventually kind of wore off, and I sort of forgot about that experience or tucked it away and focused on the magic. But then this overwhelming feeling that I would need to take a deep look at myself, do some work, and you know, just work on my shadows and all of those things that we also do. And so, as that was happening, I kind of went through, I went through a dark night of the soul, which, you know, we all go through. And, you know, I just was questioning everything about what I wanted to do, who I was, what was happening to me. In addition to that, I felt like my physical body was dying. Felt like I would get electrocuted by these surges of energy that would come through. And, you know, it was uncomfortable. I felt so much anxiety. I felt like my heart was like popping out of its chest. I felt like my gallbladder was going to explode, which I later found out that was because of food. And, you know, our diet changes drastically, like as you go through this process. And so you have to eat cleaner and cleaner as you go through it. But again, I didn't know this shit at the time. The resources that are available now just weren't there, or at least, you know, not in a place that I came across them, because I wouldn't have known, you know, back then to look for stuff on Awakening or Ascension. And so, you know, I channeled that stuff, but again, it just didn't make that connection until a little bit later for me. So I went through that dark night and not understanding what was going on and operating from fear, in addition to things outside of my control, like deaths in the family and illnesses, and then not being able to work as much through that period, and then also like losing a business that I tried to start up. I fell into you know, I lost everything financially, and so my relationship was suffering for other reasons, and you know, and again, didn't want to be here, so went down that dark part of the journey again, and I knew I needed to get some support, and so I started seeing a spiritual counselor, and really I just wanted somebody that could like hear my experiences and like what the hell is happening. And so really she was like, well, here are some other things to take a look at first, which, you know, it was helpful because it helped me kind of step away from that relationship, focus on myself, focus on the things that would make me happy, feeling my own energy field, just to get that clarity, right? And when we're not happy with what's going on in our life, then we need to kind of take that even deeper dive into self-love and figure it out. So did that, worked on myself, started exploring Reiki, shamanic practices, mediumship opened up for me again after that, when I stepped away and started focusing on my gifts and abilities. And you know, again, mediumship was a part of my life when I was younger. And I would just take this information down like a ghost secretary and share it with people that it wasn't even necessarily people I was connected to. You know, sometimes it was strangers, sometimes it was people who knew people that I knew. And so by doing that and having support from, you know, especially one person in particular that helped me share those messages and encouraged me to do so and didn't make me feel like I was losing my mind, that helped get that validation from, you know, things that I would have no way of knowing. And so, you know, as I trusted that, it grew and expanded. And then there were like celebrities coming through, and I didn't understand that whole thing, but I was like, okay, I'll just, you know, document this stuff. And I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan at the time, so I really, you know, it wasn't like people around me. And then, you know, also the interdimensionals came through. So I had this guide, Patu, that was an Andromedan, but I did not. The veil had still been over, or the cloak, you know, however you want to refer to it as. And this being showed up in my place and just literally like kind of sat there all calm and didn't say anything. Now, I telepathically, I was receiving like images and things of that nature, but it was more so getting me acclimated with this vibration and recognizing it, feeling safe and comfortable before that could expand a little bit. And so I just really felt like home. And then I was like, man, like, what was that? And then I just heard clear as day Andromedan. Didn't know what the fuck that was, so I had to look that up. And then you know, the more that those connections occurred, the more memories that begin to awaken for me. And I just had this knowing, oh my gosh, yes, I've been there before. You know, my soul's a part of this. And so the Arcturians came in, and you know, I had experiences with many interdimensional or galactic beings, and I always felt safe and loved, and that they are here to help humanity through this process.